Our aim was to find a joint way forward to increase Arctic security. What can the Kingdom of Denmark do more? What can US do more? What can NATO do more? The Kingdom of Denmark has already stepped up our own contribution by committing additional funds for military capabilities, not dock slates, but ships, drones, fighter jets, etc. And we are definitely ready to do more. The US has already a wide military access to Greenland. Under the 1951 Defense Agreement, the US can always ask for increasing its presence in Greenland, and therefore we wish to hear if the US had any further requests to make in this aspect. We would examine any such request constructively. Greenland is, through the Kingdom of Denmark, a member of NATO and has been that since the very founding of NATO in 1949 and is therefore also covered by Article 5. We have been pushing for quite a while in NATO for a stronger collective role in Greenland together with a number of allies, and we are eager to work with the US on advancing this agenda, and we are prepared to go further. Therefore, our aim was to find a common understanding on all these points and to launch, if possible, further in-depth work to deliver on them. On this basis, we had what I will describe as a frank but also constructive discussion. The discussions focused on how to ensure the long-term security in Greenland. And here our perspectives continue to differ, I must say. The President has made his view clear, and we have a different position. We, the Kingdom of Denmark, continue to believe that also the long-term security of Greenland can be ensured inside the current framework, the 1951 Agreement on the Defence of Greenland, as well as the NATO Treaty. For us, ideas that would not respect territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the right of self-determination of the Greenlandic people are, of course, totally unacceptable. And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk. We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. We expect that such a group will meet for a first time within a matter of weeks. And then I will pass the floor to my colleague from Greenland, Vivian Mosford.
Thank you so much. Not repeating what already been said here, so I would like to say something in my own language, because there are many, many people in Greenland that follows, and for that, I hope that you will allow me. So, aseseka nunaqatikka naringiraa tamas marinnaasusi ulloq uatsinnut pissanganarsimagoq oqaatigilagari ullumik ataatimiineq ingerlalluarsimammat aamalu inimi ataatimiiffigisatsinni атаққиқатигиинеқ ааллаавигалу оқалеқатигиинери ингерланнеқарсимаммата массаккуллу сиуму саммисимик оқалеқатигиинерит ингерлаққиннissaанут аққутиник уярлеқатигииниссатсиннут исимақатигиисималлута. I think that our meeting today and our commitment to find the right path is something that gives us to be able to see forward. And by saying that, I also committed on what Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen already said. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And then I think we could take a few questions. Tom from BBC. Yes.
Thank you very much, Conrad. Just first of all, you talked about the working group. Can you just give us a sense of what this means now? So what has actually been agreed you're going to do next, despite this, as you described it, fundamental disagreement? And you mentioned the job slates. In terms of what you've announced in terms of beefing up security in the Arctic around Greenland,
Well, that's actually quite a few questions at the same time. Well, I have known the president for quite a while, also in my former capacity as prime minister in Denmark, and I know his approach. But I must say, and even though he addressed things quite differently from what I would have done myself, there's also always a bit of truth in what he's saying, not about the dog sleighs. Well, we also have dog sleighs to our special forces. That's the way to, otherwise you couldn't come around in the northern part of Greenland. But I must say that, of course, we share, to some extent, his concerns. There is definitely a new security situation in the Arctic and the high north. All of us, transatlantic, took the peace dividend years ago, and we have the vision of keeping Arctic as a low-tension region. That's probably also why U.S. themselves have decided to have a much softer footprint in Greenland. During the Cold War, at some stage, they had 17 different military installations and military bases. Now they only have one. They had like 10,000 personnel in Greenland. Now they have around 200. That's not our decision. That's a U.S. decision. And now the situation is entirely different. And of course, we have to respond to this. The big difference is whether that must lead to a situation where U.S. acquire Greenland, and that is absolutely not necessary. I mean, we have the long-lasting diplomatic relation, the longest-lasting diplomatic relation with U.S. that any U.S. ally has, 225 years in a row. And we have a perfect framework which could be used. And therefore, to answer your question, even though we wasn't so successful that we reached, a conclusion where our American colleagues said, "Oh, sorry, it was a totally misunderstanding. We gave up on our ambitions." There's clearly a disagreement. We agreed that it makes sense to try to sit down on a high level to explore whether there is possibilities to accommodate the concerns of the president while we at the same time respect the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. So this is the work we will start. Whether that is doable, I don't know. I hope, and I would like to express that it could take, down the temperature. We have now had like 13 months with this ongoing discussions in social media, and this is actually the very first time where we could sit down at a top political level to discuss it. And it was a great opportunity also for Vivian and I to go up against the narrative because it is not a true narrative that we have, Chinese warships all around the place. According to our intelligence, we haven't had a Chinese warship in Greenland for a decade or so. So from that perspective, it was a very constructive meeting. As I said, frank discussion among equal partners, and now at least we have to give it a try. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think it's very important to say it again that how important it is from our side to strengthen our cooperation with the United States, but that doesn't mean that we want to be owned by the United States, but as allies, how we can strengthen our cooperation, it's all our interest.
Yes, Kim.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, I would like to ask this question in Danish, but let me do it in English here
Yes.
because of our colleagues here. Do you see any compromise ahead of you? You said it a little bit. Could you elaborate a little on the possible compromise that there would be between the president's wish to acquire Greenland or have control of Greenland and the red lines that the Kingdom of Denmark has got right now? And if you also can tell us just a little bit about the approach that the Americans had to this meeting. What was their primary goal, as you see it? Was that to reach that end goal, or was it an open discussion of how do we solve the security situation in the Arctic?
Well, first of all, I don't think this is the proper place to elaborate on what could be a compromise. The whole idea and the reason why we asked for this meeting was to turn public debate in a very, black and white kind of setting into a discussion where there's room for nuances. And therefore, I'm pleased, even though we do not agree whether this is doable, while we at the same time should respect the kingdom's red lines, at least it is productive to start discussions at a high level. And then we have to see whether we will be successful or not. I would say, and that is probably in comparison to some of the public debate, that the meeting took place in a very constructive atmosphere, where we also had, as I said, the opportunity to at least challenge the narrative presented by the American president. And I think that is a necessity if we want to have a proper debate. It was basically about security. I mean, and as I said, even though there's not an instant threat from China and Russia, at least not a threat we can't accommodate. For instance, Chinese investments, we have avoided that due to close cooperation between Greenland and Denmark. When you saw, like 10 years ago, the Belt and Road Initiative and the idea of Chinese investments in infrastructure in Greenland, we avoided that. So there's no, Chinese present in Greenland. But there's a concern. Will that be the case in like 10 or 20 years from now? It will not, because our Greenlandic friends have introduced investment screening schemes, etc. And Denmark, is by all means on the right side of history. And therefore, we will also continue to do what we already have done. We have been stepping up. We have allocated almost $15 billion within just the last couple of years to capabilities in the High North. We have been pushing among the Arctic NATO states for a bigger NATO engagement. Honestly speaking, and now I can only point fingers at the former American administration, U.S. has historically been a bit reluctant. Hopefully that will change now. There's a dialogue within the NATO framework, and we want to step up. And hopefully that could also accommodate some of the president's concern. But it's not that I'm now, saying everything is solved. It's not solved. We didn't manage, but and honestly speaking, I didn't believe that was doable. We didn't manage to change the American position. It's clear that the president has this wish of conquering over Greenland. We made it very, very clear that this is not in the interest of the kingdom. There's a government in Greenland with support from 3/4 of the Greenlandic population. The premier made it very, very clear yesterday that Greenland, for the time being and for foreseeable future, will remain within the kingdom of Denmark. And therefore, this is a common position that we want to work with our American friends and allies, but it must be a respectful cooperation and it must respect the red lines. Should we take a very final question and then, yeah, come on. There's a fight going on now about, okay, yes. We can do that afterwards. Yeah. Vivian?
I think that it's never been so important to initiate that we are allies, we are friends, we have been cooperated in many, many years, we have history together, So it's all our interest to find the right balances. So I don't think I can say it longer than that. Of course, we have work to do in the future, and for us the most important is that you find the normalized relationship we used to have, and it's very important. And I think that we have initiated so many times where we stand and our geopolitical and location and everything that is very important, and we do it as an ally, and we do it. Of course, it's also our interest that Greenland's positions and how we do it, that you do it on behalf of the allies. And yes.
Yeah, that will be the final question. That will be the final question.
Mark Sloan from Sky News. Can I just ask you about the emotion of this moment? What did the administration, what did Trump's team say to you when you presumably told them that you can't just take over a people, you can't just take over and acquire a nation? Was there any discussion about, did they appreciate that perspective, or for them is this simply about security?
I think that what we have been saying, that the meeting is been on a respect way, and we have shown where our limits are, and from there I think that it will be very good to look forward, and this high level group that is going to work together. As I'm already saying, that it's all our interest to find the right path. It's all according to the security in Northern Hemisphere. So I don't want to say more than what we discussed in the closed meeting room, but I would like to have this. How do you say it in English? Hope for a more mutual understanding and trying to find the right balances is equally from all countries.
It is, of course, very emotional for all of us, and of course particularly for people living up in Greenland, but also for people in Denmark. We have 17,000 people living in Denmark. It sums up to like 1/3 of the Greenlandic population. We have a lot of Danes living in Greenland, more than 1 out of 10, which just emphasize that Denmark and Greenland are, integrated, and it has been that for centuries. And we look at ourselves as U.S. closest allies. I've had this discussion with the president previously. In Afghanistan we had exactly as many casualties as U.S. And I know very well that, the future is not necessarily about the past, but I think it is important also to have the past in mind. And we are eager to fulfill our promises. And even though our view on the situation right now around Greenland differs from public statements in the U.S., we share the concerns in a long-time perspective. And we want to work closely with the U.S., but it must, of course, be a respectful kind of cooperation. And we both took the opportunity, of course, also to express that it is not easy to think innovative about solutions when you wake up every morning to different threats. Whether that will have an impact, I can't say for sure, but I can only say that it is in everybody's interest, even though we disagree, that we agree to try to explore whether it is doable to accommodate some of the concerns while at the same time respecting the integrity of the Danish kingdom's territory and the self-determination of the Greenlandic people. Thank you.